Good day everyone. We will be talking about the chapter 5, Doing History, a guide for students. Our learning objective is number 1, to manifest interest in local history and cultural heritage. Number 2, to apply historiographical methods in writing the history of one's locality or country. Number 3 is to incorporate technology in the discipline of history. And the last is to appreciate the value of doing history to the present day. Now let's talk about doing historical and research online. Cyberspace is a great resource for research if you know how to use it properly. Treat anything you find online as a source and use the same historical methods you have learned to analyze the data you get online. A simple skill that will get you far in doing historical research online is knowing where to look and how to look. Search engine websites such as Yahoo or www@yahoo.com or Google or www.google.com could lead you to a lot of search with the right search strings. Google also provides its own customized platforms for scholarly research called Google Scholar or www.scholar.google.com or Google Books at www.books.google.com. It also provides resources for scanned books where you're able to read some chapters for free. In 2017, it has 40 million articles in 293 languages. Nonetheless, Wikipedia provides a useful launchpad to sources that you may use for research. As a practice, use Wikipedia to gain a general overview of what you need to know so that you may be guided in looking for credible and reliable sources that you need for your research. Philippine government websites at www.gov.ph are starting to be enriched with sources that may be used for historical research. Websites of newspapers, magazines, broadcasting stations, and other media outlets usually keep an archive of their articles from a particular date. Now, doing historical research in libraries and archives. Research in libraries and archives is necessary in the study of history as these are repositories of primary and secondary sources. It is imperative upon students to be able to develop an aptitude towards doing research in these venues so as further develop their skill in historical research. Nowadays, libraries have forgone the tedious and antiquated card cataloging system and have been using the digital version to catalog their holdings, called the Online Public Access Catalog or OPAC, sometimes simply the Library Catalog. A problem that could arise this way is when the search yields too many results. Sifting through these may need a more refined search string use more defined keywords to limit the results. For example, Philippine history as a research string would result in hundreds, even thousands of materials. The catalog lists down all kinds of materials available based on the subject used in the research, including books, journals, maps, and other materials that fit what you might be looking for. The Library of the Philippines in Ermita, Manila provides a rich treasure trove of materials for the students, researcher, interested in Philippine history, especially in their Filipiniana section. The National Archive of the Philippines, also in Manila, is an agency of the government mandated to collect, store, preserve, and make available records of the government and other primary sources pertaining to the history and development of the Philippines. Other university libraries and the University of the Philippines in Diliman, Quezon City have holdings that could also be useful in research. Other university libraries are also accessible to the public, and private libraries and institutions also have archives that may be used for research. The Family History Center at the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is a generous resource for research on genealogies, etc. Your city or town may have its own local archive, museum, or public library where you may access primary sources and other materials for your research.
I will discuss to you about the life history of biographical research. Every time we hear the word history, the first thing that comes in our minds is about nations, society, places, and significant events. Yes, but life history is different among them. because life history is often neglected, subdiscipline of history, because it is seen as trivial or not so important in large narrative of nations, societies, and civilizations. By that means, ang life history ay hindi siya masyadong napapansin because the attention of the people ay andun lang sa significant events or sa mga pangyayari. But they tend to forget the people behind that individuals. So, we have to realize that individuals is a significant contributor to the breakthroughs or the significant events happened in the past. I have here a list of importance of the individual in this history. First, individual make up societies. Second, individual actions can cause large-scale social change. Third, individual influence can span centuries and generations. And the fourth one is individual can also influence large spaces and many places. So, there is a given individual here as an example based from the book where are the topics came from. So, the first individual is, I am pertaining it to Jesus Christ. My dear brothers and sisters of Jesus Christ, we believe that He influenced the whole world through faith and religion. So, as we observe as a Christianity in one of the massive religion in the whole world, as I have mentioned earlier, individual can span centuries and generations. The second example of an influencer is Jose Rizal. He is an influencer of so many Filipinos like me. And his novels inspired the radical Pinoys or Filipinos to fight to the colonizers. And his death was a turning point to have a revolution here in the Philippines. Life history is never been an easy task. Some of our social scientists having hard times to study the life history of an individual here in the society. Because we as an individuals, we are distinct, unique, and dynamic. And life historian and biographer should know the different aspects of life in order to properly historicize his life. For example, kapag pag-aaralan natin ang buhay ni Jose Rizal, hindi lang yung big events na nangyari sa buhay niya, kundi pag-aaralan din natin kung sino talaga siya, kung saan siya nagsimula, kung sino yung kamag-anak niya, or let us say about his background. And of course, his hometown in Calamba. Kapag pag-aaralan natin ang tungkol kay Jose Rizal, pumunta lang kayo doon. You ask about the progress sa lugar nila sa panahon ni Rizal. Kung may progress ba sa panahon ni Rizal doon sa Calamba, or mayroon ba siyang na-contribute doon sa place nila. Then, speaking about family, we all know that family is very important part of individual's life. Like me, my family is so very important for me because doon mo nalalaman those good moral values that they teaches us because they are the first teacher. Simula ng pagkabata natin, sila ang una nating guro. Okay? So those religious beliefs, and also they are the one who motivates us and inspires us. Knowing those information, it will make it easier about life historians if we state the facts or his or her insights, example, about Jose Rizal's early life. So overall, you have to dig in every part from small details to the big details in order to historicize properly the life of an individual. So I guess that's all. Thank you for listening and mabuhay.
Doing local and oral history. These history subjects and course usually taught to students in schools and Philippine history, world history, and history of Asia. Local history is the study of the history of a particular community or a smaller unit of geography. Local historians study the history of local institutions like churches. They also study the local economies, local heroes, and local events. Local history can serve as a balancer of these tendencies by showing the peculiarities in certain locales in particular nation, region, or continent. Local history also facilitates a historical narrative emanating from the people. Historians call this the history from below. Ultimately, studying local history shall provide new provisions and perspectives on the already established national history. Thus, local history is not just aimed at opposing the discourse in the national history, but it also a tool of enriching these national narratives. Doing local history, however, is not an easy task. Nevertheless, the limitation should encourage historians to innovate and recreate local historical methodology. One of the important historical methodology to local history is oral history. Oral history is important in the midst of scarcity in written resources, historical documents, and other materials evidences. This method uses oral accounts of historical subjects, witnesses, members of the communities, and the like. Oral history primarily relies on memory. Memory is seen as something that is faulty and inaccurate.
Now, we will proceed to interacting with history through historical shrine and museum. These venues for living history provide a certain level of authority and trustworthiness that could impact the way we view the past. Historical shrine and museum serve as portals to the past, but one must also take note that visiting a museum entails preparation. Once you know what you will be visiting, this is essential to do a background reading on the place you will visiting so that you may know what to expect and you can situate the importance of the place you will be visiting in the national historical narrative. This means that we should visit historical museum because they connect us to the past through visiting this place. Where history occurred, we find our roots. History allows us to feel like we are part of something much bigger. Upon arriving in the historical museum, one thing that you could do is to look for the historical marker. These markers put up by the National Historical Commission of the Philippines, NHCP, or formerly National Historical Institution, or NHI. It provides the basic details on what makes a certain site historical. This marker ensures that the site where it is located is indeed of historical and cultural value of the nation. This means also that historical markers are well documented, history is easily accessible to the public, and they presented the importance a community plays in its heritage. Next is shrine and museum are a lot of more interactive now. Aided by the available technology, take the chance and participate in these interactive opportunities to experience history firsthand. Watch the video, listening to the sound, and enjoy experience. This is also a great chance to analyze the artifacts since artifacts are also texts that are open for reading, interpretation, criticism, and evaluation. In some ways, it can happen that all museum and historic sites are get better information than what you would see on the internet or even in many legend books. In addition, actually seeing things in context can help develop one's understanding of events, character, and other aspects. I think that's all for today. Thank you for listening and have a nice day.